Hello, welcome to another episode of Cracking the Rich Code, the podcast. I'm John Verico, and I love being your host on this show because it gets me the opportunity to meet with and chat with people from all walks of life, from all over the place, and just absolutely brilliant people. But our guest today is somebody very special. And I know I say that all the time, but I mean it. And I really do. I mean it each and every time, but especially today, because this guy is actually a friend of mine who I've met through the Cracking the Rich Code system, as well as through other networks as well that we are in together. And always been so supremely impressed by this guy. So let me bring in our guest today, Mr. Rutherford Pascal, who is featured in Cracking the Rich Code, Volume 18. Hello, Rutherford. How are you today?
Spectacular. How are you?
Oh, man. It's always great when I get a chance to chat with you.
Same here.
Yeah, we haven't had a chance to chat in a while, so this
Mhm.
gave us a great opportunity to catch up.
I agreed. We need to do this more often.
We absolutely do. So congratulations on being published in Cracking the Rich Code Volume 18. I know that one
Mhm.
came out relatively recently
Mhm.
from the time that we're doing this podcast. Of course, this is going to be evergreen, so people will be able to refer to it time and time again. And what I want people to get a chance to do is to get to know you and your background. And one of the things that we have in common is that we're both trained as John Maxwell
Yes.
certified speakers and
Mhm.
coaches as well. And that's
Mhm.
kind of an interesting thing. So let's kind of start off a little bit there, a
Sure.
little bit kind of how you got into this whole realm of becoming a coach and a speaker.
That's a great question. So I spent 35 years in corporate America with three Fortune 100 companies, and in that time, had small teams, big teams, very extremely large teams, but the whole focus was growing people, growing leaders. You know, getting the best out of them, putting them in situations to win. So when my transition out of corporate America, this was a natural transition. Somebody asked me, when did you think about doing this? I said 30 years ago, which is actually true.
Yeah.
When I first got into pharmaceuticals, I was heading training department, and somebody was training these 12 trainers from 12 different companies, and I talked to her after about what she did, and it was so impactful for me that her and I talked every year at least once after that
Wow.
meeting for 8 years. We talked
Wow.
all the time because it was I knew that's the kind of situation impact that I really wanted to have after my corporate life was over. So
And you're a young man. You're a young man. When you say, my corporate life was over, it wasn't that your corporate life was necessarily over. You made a conscious transition, right? It wasn't that you're like,
yeah.
oh well, I'm going to retire now and start something new. No, that
So, by the way, that R word never enters my mouth because I don't believe in that. And no, you're right. You're right. I made a conscious decision to do that because honestly, the impact you make on with a company is really constricted to the people on in the company and your team, whatever. I wanted to make greater impact. I wanted to go outside of the pharmaceutical industry to other industries to help leaders understand how they could lead better, you know, grow the company faster, longer, and create joy in their workforce. That was why I wanted to do what I did. So John Maxwell, by the way, when I was looking, because I didn't know this, when I was looking to where I was going to, put myself in, what kind of rooms, what kind of, what name I want. I didn't know at the time that he was coaching coaches. I'm obviously John Maxwell devotee, of his books, and he's written 89 or 91. You lose track of how many books he's written.
oh, I
So,
know.
everybody's knows that, but I didn't know he was coaching coaches. I didn't know that. And so as soon as I found that out, I stopped looking. It was, oh, this guy is training coaches, done. And so that's really, it was legitimately that fast, that easy because of who he was as a leader. I've told people this. I've never had a person that I've agreed with more than him about how to lead. And because almost every single tenet of his leadership is what I believe, and seriously, every single one of them. So it was a very easy decision for me.
Yeah, I can understand that too. I mean, I was always impressed with his writings, and a lot of times when I was speaking and coaching, I would reference his material.
Mm-hmm.
And when I learned that he had these programs for coaching coaches and speakers, I was like, oh, and then authorizing us to actually be able to teach his material.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, good. Then I don't have to just cite him.
Yeah.
I can actually teach the whole
Yeah.
book kind of thing.
And then
And
use his name.
and I went that way.
And use his name.
Yes. Yeah.
Amazing.
So that was always it's always a great thing when we can we can do that kind of it. So
Mhm.
now let's fast forward a little bit, right?
Sure.
You've been doing this for a little while,
Mhm.
and you get a call out of the blue from Jim Britt, right?
Yeah.
So how did that whole thing go, and how did you wind up in cracking the Rich Code?
So what the timing was extremely interesting, John. So I was writing a book, my first book, on, it was basically, it's called the PID system, preparation, intentionality, differentiation. And that book is really about how do employees add value to themselves so they become invaluable. Okay. And I wrote that because people kept asking me, how did I get promoted 8 times in corporate America? How did I do that? It was because it's not easy, it's hard, right? So,
Sure.
and I started to, interrogate that, really look at it, because you don't look, when you're living it, you don't really, some things I did were intentional. So I knew that. So then I went, oh, and here's what I did. So that was really the book, to really answer those questions and to really help other people say, hey, in order to stand out, I don't have to, have green hair or be whatever, right? I actually can take the strengths that I have, inherent strengths, and amplify that to make a difference. And then I'm first of all, I was using this, the joy, the genius that I have inside of me. Oh my God, I can grow my career just by being me. And that's really the reason for the book. So when I was researching the word value, because I knew I was going to be asked the questions, I realized that there was not one book written on the value in the way that I look at it. There's books on values. There's a thing on employee value, but there's literally nothing on what I was doing. So when Jim called me, I already had the next book or the next chapter in my head because of that research. So that's why this, and I wrote an article that it was really about the forgotten AI, which is what I call my chapter is called The Forgotten AI, Appreciation and Impact. Appreciation and impact, because that's really what I wanted people to do, is have people to think about as leaders. Leaders need to understand, if they appreciate everybody in their organization, and I mean everybody, the people that water their plants, the people that park the car, everybody in their organization, yes, they get more out of them, right? It's maddening to me to think that people think, if I treat somebody poorly, they're going to work harder for me. I don't understand that disconnect. I just don't understand.
I never understood that mentality either.
So when I say appreciation, I'm talking about appreciation for work well done. Because what people don't want to do, John, is they don't want to say, hey, thank you for doing that, or nice job, and I'm not talking about cleaning gutters here. I'm not talking about painting the Sistine Chapel. I'm talking about little things that really make a difference for people. Saying thank you. Hey, why didn't you head home early? You had a long night last night. Little small things, because when that's done consistently, people work longer. They'll go, wow, I've been working. It's 6:30. I got to get home, because they're doing. If in
You
fact
feel
you
like they're
treat,
valued, like to put it bluntly, they feel valued.
they
Yeah.
absolutely feel valued. They absolutely feel valued. They know they're making a
We all
difference.
know that we work harder when we know that we matter
Yes,
and that we're making a difference.
yes. And that's really what the chapter's about. How do we tell people? How do we show people that, listen, being nice or kind, actually, not nice is not the right word, it's more being kind, right? Is the best way to go. And I gave you this 3 company examples that I can show that they've grown. I specifically did a variety of people. Like, so one of them is a Ritz Carlton, which is a very high class, high you know ticket, and they treat their employees extremely well, right? And their employees have great autonomy to do their jobs. They love. If you've ever been to Ritz Carlton, they love their job, and you can tell that by how they treat you. You can tell that by the steps they go to not only know your name, know everything about you they can,
Right.
in a certain situation. I'll tell you a quick story. My wife and I were in Costa Rica on a trip, and she had lost a key or something, and we were going to breakfast, and 3 people in her staff called her Mrs. Pascal and asked her if she had the key. 3 people, and she was so impressed because everybody was attentive, everybody was caring,
Yes.
and it was not fake, right? And so you have.
There's something about that feeling of genuine concern for you as a human being,
Yeah.
not just as a paying customer. There's a huge
Yes.
difference
Yeah.
in how you're treated.
Yes. And think about this, John. Those rooms are not cheap, right?
No, they're not.
They're not cheap. So the question is, the next time we're traveling, what are the chances that we're going to pick a lower hotel that's maybe 200-300 a night less expensive? Probably not, because of how well we were treated. Because so that's the calculus that companies like that have in mind. Now, I told that's the expensive, or high
Right.
priced. So if you go on the other
But
side,
we understand this,
yes.
right? Because we know how we feel
Hmm.
when we are treated that way.
Hmm.
And so as a customer and
Hmm.
as an employee, if you're treated that way by the organization and by the bosses, then you're just going to give better service and you're going to treat the customers that way. We
Yeah,
all know that you know it's the customers who are I'm sorry, it's your employees who are the face of your company, right?
exactly.
They're going to represent you to your customers and what you stand for. By the way, I just want to say, for those of you who are just tuning in, we're having a remarkable conversation with Rutherford Pascal. If you have not uh, if you're just tuning into this now, go back and start this thing from the beginning. Rutherford is a genius on this stuff and understanding the importance of valuing your employees and each other as human beings.
Mhm.
So just to continue on, Rutherford, we had just talked about kind of that high end business
Yeah, yeah.
and the kind of the way that they treat their customers, and
Mhm.
that's because of the way they treat their employees. They treat their employees so well that they kind of pass that on to the customers. I know that I'll go to a restaurant that has mediocre food and great service, rather than a restaurant that has like the best food in the world, but if the service isn't there, they don't treat me right. I'm probably not gonna go back to them. And so, it really is all about that human connection.
Yeah, it's interesting when you go to, and it's a great example of the restaurants and you know coffee shop. So one of the examples I put in there is Starbucks, but if you and I also put in Southwest Airlines, and just to be clear, the Southwest Airlines and the Starbucks, and I think what I think about is when they started, right? When they started, both of them, when they started, everybody was treated. I don't know if you've ever walked into a Starbucks where the person who greeted you wasn't smiling, happy, right? They were legitimately happy, right?
Yeah.
Southwest Airlines, the same thing. They're singing, they're doing all this crazy stuff.
Yeah,
They're
making jokes. Yeah, that's what made it worthwhile.
They're
You put
having
up with the kettle line,
gotta call it.
to get that comfortable, homey human
Yes.
connection. We care about you kind of feeling when you get in there.
Yeah, and they would they'd call out people's birthday. They'd always have like somebody who you thought was auditioning to go to Hollywood. They'd do either rhyme or song or all these different things, and it was legitimately fun, right? You were on there, and it was joy. And listen, you and I both.
I remember one flight where the flight attendant got on and said, "For those of you traveling with small children, remember that was your choice."
That's fantastic.
Stuff like it sticks with you.
Yeah, it's fantastic. And you and I have both been on airlines, just to pick airlines, when the flight attendant is not happy. They do not want to be there. And I've literally never had that happen with Southwest back in the day. Now it's different. Now it's because of some other.
Not back in the day.
Yeah, not back in the day. Herb Kelleher, when he founded the company, it was complete joy. It was joy, and Starbucks is the exact same thing. They've done a couple of things which probably are not ideal now, but majority of the stuff that they do for their employees is fantastic. Majority, not everything's great, but the majority do really well. And I actually talked to somebody last week about, and asked her this. She had this designation. I said, so what does that mean? Oh, it's just it means it was called Master Barista. And I said, okay, what is that? Oh, I just took more classes and I got this. Really, they give you that? Oh yeah, it's free. And I went, did you enjoy it? Yeah. Yeah. So I do this, it's a bad habit. It's talking to them more about their company, their job, and
that's not a bad habit, by the way. That is a great habit, because that also shows that you care about them as a human being, right? Which helps them also continue to appreciate what they're doing.
Yeah, that is
so. Yeah, I mean that's the way we should be interacting with people all the time.
Yeah. But it's a bad habit, because so I think I have 4 kids, and every once in a while my kids will go, Dad, always. Geez, he's doing that dad thing, right? He's talking to. I talk to every waiter. I find out their name. I find out.
Yes.
And I talk to them. First of all, I engage with them, like human beings, and I want the experience to be good. But that's the same thing that employees want when they work for a company. They want that company to have that. They want. Oh, your name is John Barico. You've been married for 32 years. You have 2 kids. One of them is going to Stanford. One of them's going to Lafayette. I don't know. I made that up, John. I'm not sure any of that.
Yeah, none of that is true. I'm married 40 years and no kids.
Wow, 40! Congratulations.
Just had our anniversary.
You're 5 more than me. But that's what you want from them. You want to have a voice. You want to be heard, and you want to be noticed. Meaning that you want people to say, I was at Bristol Myers Squibb, the first pharmaceutical company I was with, and we had an executive vice president. We had 400 leaders, 400 of us. He knew each of us and something about all of us. But he didn't know any more than that. But he would say, hey, John, how those two kids doing? Hey,
Right.
Amy, right? How is that farm doing? And people would be like, oh my God, he remembers me, he knows me. And it was such a big company. It was such a important deal. And when he'd go to meetings, he'd always want to find out, okay, send me information on everybody, because then
Everybody's going to be there.
he'd
Yeah.
study.
Yeah.
That's such an impact. It's, by the way, small, very impactful, and people stay because of that, right? It's
Exactly.
and and that's why it's called appreciation impact. It's the appreciation. Appreciate those people, and the impact that they make because you appreciate them is unbelievable. And really, that's what I want. That's what the chapter talks about, and that's what I want people to get out of that is they don't. You can be kind and grow a business very, very, very well.
Yeah. Yeah. And I spent 25 years in the military, and I had some leaders that I worked for that were like that,
Mm-hmm.
that were kind, that cared,
Mm-hmm.
that also gave me chances to grow,
Mm-hmm.
and trusted me for that. And then I had other ones who said, "I'm the boss, and you're going to listen to what I say." Period. Now, sometimes you need a direct approach when you're like in a battlefield or something. It's like go over there, take that hill. You got to do what you got to do. There's no time for questions and things like that. But there's also a way that building that trust between us, that I know that you're sending me there for the right reason, and so that is it's always been critical. And that's what took my lessons throughout my career as I was growing up and watching the behavior of the people that I worked with and the people I worked around, and saw how they treated people. And I saw how they made people feel. And I know how I felt and who I worked harder for. I worked much harder for those people who made me feel like I made a difference and I mattered. Yeah.
So you know the famous Maya Angelou quote, right?
Yeah.
People people will forget what you said.
Mm-hmm. They'll forget
People
what you
will
do,
forget what you did, but they'll never forget how you made them
how you
feel,
make them feel. Yeah.
right? And that's the thing that should stick in every leader's mind is how did you make them feel? Now, by the way, taking the hill, you're going to take the hill if you know somebody that has your best interest at heart, right? You're always, you've heard of leaders. I would run through a wall for him or her.
Yeah.
You heard that being said. It's the same thing,
Yeah.
right? Because they get me, they listen to me, they know me, and I know they have my best interest. That's it. If all that's true, then taking a hill, you're gonna listen to, and you're not gonna question the
Nope.
order. You're
Nope.
not, because it's this person has the best interest of the mission, of the
Mm-hmm.
troops, and they care because you've seen it. They've demonstrated that.
Exactly. Exactly. It's all about relationships.
Mhm.
Now, we're look how quickly the time is going. We're chatting with Rutherford Pascal here, and we're having a great conversation about how we need to impact other people by appreciating them. This is fantastic. Check out his chapter in Cracking the Rich Code, Volume 18. But I want to talk a little bit about kind of your own company and what you do. Now, your company is called Glass Walls Leadership,
Yes. Yes.
right? So so let's talk a little bit about what that name came from, and what it means.
So actually, it was one of those things when you start a company, you're like, what are you going to name it? But this was again one of those things that was really easy because everybody knows what glass ceilings are. Glass ceiling is where people constrict your growth, right?
Mhm.
Glass walls are the barriers you put around yourself, right? You constrict the growth, right? So the reason I wanted to help people break out of their own glass walls, right? To get to heights. So the reason that was so easy for me is so many times I've talked to people about how good they were. People don't understand the value, the genius that they have, the value that they have, the talents that they have. The reason is nobody tells them, because you get so focused in the day to day, they're so myopic in their view, tunnel vision, that they do not see that the impact they're making on either a customer, the company, or other people. Some people don't, right? I shouldn't say some people. Majority of the people don't, right? And then
Right.
they say things like, "I can't do this. I don't have enough experience. I don't," and you're like, "Wait a minute, you've done this, this, and this, which is actually harder." Or this over here is very transferable to this over here.
Right.
You can do this, by the way, and so that happened so much in my life and career that the name of the company was easy, because I just had to tell people they could do it. One of the guys, he was a leader for me, and I told him he could be a second line leader. He could lead leaders, and he could. And 4 or 5 years later, he came back. He was leading leaders, and he told me, "I would have never thought to do this until you told me that. I never
Yeah.
saw myself as somebody that could lead leaders." Right.
How many
And
times have we heard the expression, I'm just this?
yes,
I'm just that. No, I can't do that. I'm just this. I only just know how. I'd gotten a message from somebody on LinkedIn that I hadn't seen in well over 15 years. And we weren't really close. We kind of casually worked together many years ago. And she said, I'm so glad we've reconnected. I have been looking for you to try to reconnect with you after all these years to thank you. And I said, for what? And she said, well, you just spent a few minutes with me, chatting with me. I was told you about this job that I was hesitant to apply for, and I didn't think I had enough experience. And you convinced me that I did have enough experience just by the different kinds of things that I did. And so I applied for the job. I got the job. I've had the best career of my life ever since. You don't know the impact you have with people with just a small conversation, but also helping people realize that they're more than just something. Yeah.
Yeah. People don't tell you the impact you make on them. And people, by the way, both positive and negative.
Oh yeah, exactly. I was going to say that too. You never know the impact
yeah.
you have on somebody, and
So
so try to keep it positive as much as you can.
Yeah, because I mean, this is so I've known so many stories where a guidance counselor in high school told somebody they couldn't do something, wouldn't get in, and they, and it affected that person. Either they
For
used
the
it
rest
as
of their life.
fuel, or they go, yeah, my guidance counselor in high school told me I'd never amount to anything, or I'd never, I'd never do this, I'd never do that. Which is, by the way, at that age, for somebody in that position, teacher, by the way, teachers have done this too.
Oh yeah.
Parents to really put that in the mind of somebody that they absolutely can't do it is a criminal, right? It's criminal what they can do, and so you don't want to tell people that you can be anything you want to be. You can, but you got to put in the work to get there, right? So you should say, yes, there's avenues for you to do everything, but there's work, right? So it's not just, hey, yeah, you can be you can be everything in the world. Yeah, you can for the most part, right?
Right. But you may have to work. You may have to do things to get there. You may have to study something differently. You may have to try something different. You may have to break out of your comfort zone. Oh my, that's a whole other hour's conversation there.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. But yeah,
Rutherford, we've been having this great conversation, and I really love how you focus on appreciating people for who they are and what they do, understanding who they are. I try to emulate King Richard the Lionhearted. He knighted his cook. because he felt that, if anybody needs to feel appreciated and you want to keep happy, it's the person who's providing you your food.
Yes, that's good. Yep.
And so I love that kind of stuff, and I kind of see you as another King Richard.
Well, I appreciate that. I'll take that.
I absolutely do love the way that you work with people, and I'm so sorry that we've run out of time. We could just talk about this stuff for hours. So I will remind everyone to first of all reach out and connect with Rutherford on LinkedIn. It's a great way to get in touch with him, and then you guys can take things further. Visit his website, which is glasswallsleadership.com. And probably the most important thing for this podcast in particular is get a copy of Cracking the Rich Code, Volume 18. Read his chapter, The Forgotten AI, Appreciation and Impact. So this has been a great conversation, Pascal. Rutherford, thank you so much for taking the time to come on this show and sharing your wisdom with us.
Thanks for having me.
And thanks for writing your chapter.
Got it. Yeah, I loved it. It was a joy.
Yeah. Well, let's do some stuff together, my friend.
Done.
Meanwhile, thanks again for joining us. Thanks for listening to the show. Check it out. Watch it from the beginning. You want to learn more from this guy. You want to connect with him at glasswallsleadership.com. I'm John Verico. I love doing this. Check out our other episodes. Check out the new episodes coming up. But most importantly, come back and rewatch this one a few times, because every time you listen to it, I bet you're going to learn something new. Thanks again, Rutherford. Greatly appreciate you being here. Thanks, everyone.